we are constantly fighting each other, and we have exploits in their infrastructure and they have theirs and ours. And there are bot farms that where people literally sit on Twitter and threads and what have you, pretending to be British citizens that start arguments about Brexit or reform or whatever, and create these kind of pockets of unrest online, which spills out into our society. A lot of our adversaries, all they want to do is destabilize our society, so that our society looks inferior compared to theirs.
Simon Pegg, hello.
Hello.
What a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the Undeclared War.
Yeah.
Look, for people who need to catch up still on the first series, and they're used to seeing you perhaps in comic roles, this is pure drama. Britain's under cyber attack. You're head of operations at GCHQ. The internet goes down. Chaos ensues. How does Series 2 develop?
Series 2 picks up where the end of Season 1 leaves off, which is the cyber attack, which initially just shut down a number of kind of critical systems, suddenly appears to be far more profound in its effect. And it would seem that Russian fighter jets are in British airspace. And so we pick up from there. And in this season, we discover that the reason the Russians were able to hack us so effectively is because there's a mole at GCHQ. And also that the origin of the attack is slightly broader than just Russia. So it all sounds very kind of fantastical, but it's very, very grounded in what's really happening out there in cyberspace.
Well, so the first series came out a few years ago when 2024 was the future. It's now basically set in the past.
Now it's a period piece.
Did that change about how you think about what's happening in the show when you look back at what has actually happened? The way sort of relations across the world have got weirder and harder.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we watched the first season, it culminates with Mark Rylance's character appearing on Russian television, and which transpires to be a deep fake. And at that time, the degree of realism just seemed a little bit futuristic to me. Now it doesn't. Now that would be entirely possible, and you wouldn't be able to see the join. But the stuff that's going on, the kind of surface and subsurface interactions of the UK and its adversaries, it's all going on, and stuff in the news keeps happening. Like just the other day, there was a Russian warship in fairly close to British waters, and that's in the real world.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So look, I mean, although I haven't yet seen you repeatedly punch a terrorist in the face, I think probably what it reminds me of the most, weirdly, is 24. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, because it's
all
very
beat.
Yeah, time. It's always a fairly short space of time that the series takes place over, because these things happen so quickly and they're dealt with so quickly. But we went to GCHQ and screened the first 2 episodes and got to meet our counterparts, and that was fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Was it frightening? I mean, because you kind of think, like, test screenings are always awkward, but with actually GCHQ, when you're playing GCHQ...
Well, they're the ones that are most sort of...
Are they kind of like, we've already seen this, we hacked it.
Yeah, we lived this.
We're all, no.
This is like watching a documentary. It's funny because they see things in the details that maybe other people wouldn't see, which they are delighted by, like mentioning they have their own Facebook at GCHQ. So just the mention of that makes them all laugh, because they're talking about that, But what's strange is that obviously for the show it's very heightened, and for the GCHQ staff, that's their daily lives, and it's oddly mundane. You go there and it's exciting because you're in the heart of British intelligence, but the spies are all just regular people that you would walk past in the street and never look twice at,
I've occasionally met them when I go to the Cheltenham Military Festival. You're in a pub and you meet someone who goes, I'm a civil servant. And it's like, yeah, I know what kind of civil servant you are.
Yeah. My uncle was one. Two of my uncles would work there.
Really?
They never knew what they did.
Yeah. Well, now you do.
Yeah.
I mean, spy dramas, like traditionally, they do give you that sort of punching the terrorist in the face. They give you car chases, shootouts. This is all very kind of screen based. What's the trick to getting the drama still beating as much as it does?
I think with this series, as it unfolds, you get into the personal life as well as the kind of professional life. So for this season, it kind of explores my character Danny's relationship with his wife and how that affects what's going on at work, and we try and create a sort of, a dual sort of tension there. So there's the international tension and there's the very personal tension. And those things collide extremely cataclysmically in this season.
You're obviously, in performing on film sets or whatever, you're used to sort of high stress situations. This is such a different sort of stress. Your character is trying to calm everything down all the time, but in a way, he seems a lot calmer than, I don't know, anyone I've ever seen on a film set. And yet the stakes are so much higher. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what we sort of gleaned from meeting the real people, is that they're incredibly balanced, and they don't go to pieces in a crisis. They have to maintain a level head and treat every problem with the same degree of cool, calm, collected professionalism. And so while the world is falling apart, you have people that are at least not being hysterical.
Does it make you, just the experience of doing it, does it make you think differently about the threat we face, about who's reading your emails and how and why?
I mean, I learned so much during the first series. I realized that, the world has effectively been engaged in World War III since the internet appeared, because there's this whole new front line, an invisible front line where there are no bombs and no tanks or soldiers. It's just code. And we are constantly fighting each other. And we have exploits in their infrastructure and they have theirs in ours. And there are bot farms that where people literally sit on Twitter and threads and what have you, pretending to be British citizens that start arguments about Brexit or reform or whatever, and create these kind of pockets of unrest online, which spills out into our society. A lot of our adversaries, all they want to do is destabilize our society, so that our society looks inferior compared to theirs. That was one of Putin's major goals, was to just cause complete disarray. And there are people out there actively doing that. So when you're online and you're arguing with someone about some political point, you probably aren't arguing with a fellow Brit. You're probably arguing with a Russian or a North Korean or an Iranian or
a bot.
Or a bot.
Or a
just
bot,
a bot, yeah.
Having done so many sort of espionage films before, in a kind of Mission Impossible kind of way, with this being so realistic, Mission Impossible being wonderful, but quite face pulley-offy.
Absolutely.
Does it feel very different? Like, do you sort of, does it feel very different doing something that's so realism-based?
Yeah, absolutely, because obviously in Mission, we're out there in the field and we're doing stunts and stuff, whereas... the reality of it is far more bureaucratic, and you're dealing with, politicians and you might not be aligned with a particular politician's viewpoint, but you still have to abide by their, and it's, it sounds mundane, but it's as exciting, really. For
you as an actor, like you obviously began as a comedy actor, but even back in the day with the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, Shaun of the Dead and all that, there were always these sort of moments you'd do of kind of heart and emotion. There was always the crisis moment. For someone who's such a funny actor as well, is it the same muscle doing that?
It's similar. I think I'm of a mind that acting is just acting, whether you're playing the comedy of the moment or the drama of the moment. It's the same continuum and the same process. And you might do something which is skewed more into the comic, which I've done in the past, or something which is more sort of dramatic like this. It is the same muscle. You're basically, you're acting whatever part of the spectrum you're acting in.
Do you find yourself on set with this, like, avoiding the joke? If it comes to staring down, you go, this would be hilarious.
No, it's a relief when there is a kind of... There are moments of lightness in this, and because it's a very human story, it's about the people at the heart of this crisis. It's sometimes hard on set when you have to do something very serious and you're tired, and the seriousness of it becomes amusing to you. I'm terrible with Hannah Khalik Brown. If we catch each other's eye at particularly, somber moments, we'll just go. Yeah. And that's not... We were told off in the first season by Peter Kosminski because it was Hannah's first big job. And me and Alex Jennings are quite playful and are prone to giggling. And Peter took us aside and said, "Now look, this is Hannah's first big job, and you've got to set an example." So we had to behave ourselves.
You can't have a sort of creasing up over World War III.
No.
Look, you've obviously, in recent decades, you've become this massive Hollywood star, not just Mission Impossible, but Star Trek, Star Wars, everything else. But there's a certain constituency of people of about your age, hello, I'm right here, for whom you'll forever sort of also be this kind of like sort of cult classic dream person they'd like to stroll into Camden with, a bit stoned, talking about Tarantino movies. Which of those feels like the real you? Do they both always feel like you, or does one of them feel like getting back to the real you?
I think, well, the real me is probably the latter, you know, just because you go off and find yourself in these crazy big films, but I feel very much like a tourist when I'm there, you know. I'm a sort of indie filmmaker at heart, and my home really is with Edgar and Nick. You know, that's where we started, and that's where I'm sure we'll go back to. It's really fun to do those big films and to see it all, but you have to always maintain a sense of what's real and what's important, and, you know, and a healthy cynicism, I think, which is easy as a Brit, isn't it?
Because of the characters you played back then, because of Space, because of Shaun of the Dead and the rest, you are the kind of actor that people feel they really know. People feel they have a sense of ownership of you. Is that a bit inhibiting sometimes?
I do have millions of parasocial relationships. You know?
Sure.
If I ever look at my comments on Instagram or something, people do talk to me like they're my friend. You know, it's nice. It's kind of you know, it's heartening in a way because you feel like you haven't become too distant or too unreachable. It's just a job, you know. It's a job that I love and I enjoy. But I'm under no kind of illusion as to it giving me any sense of, you know, importance or anything.
No, but I meant more like, does it, like, if you were playing the serial killer, you know, is there a bit of you that goes, I just need people to stop liking me?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I have just recently played one of those. I think I'm probably, at this stage of my career, I'm actively pushing against that a little bit, you know? Because there will always be people that say, "Oh, why can't you just do Paul 2?"
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, well, no, because I don't do this for you. I do this for me, and I do this to get enjoyment out of my work. And so, you know, I've just got to trust that people will buy me as a serial killer. But then you try and make the serial killer as nice as possible, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, they always are, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, not up until the end, I suppose.
Yeah.
Where for you? Where does the happiness come from with performing, with acting? Is it while you're doing it? Is it looking back on it afterwards? Is it never? Some people say never.
No, for me, it's all it's the process. You know, it's not the product. And as long as I enjoy the actual making of something, what is left residually, which is the film or the television program, is a bonus. You know, I love being on set, and I love getting the opportunity to create for a living. You know, that's my happy place. And I would be terribly sad if I didn't. I always say to my daughter, I say, look, find the thing that you love to do and then try and find someone who will pay you to do it. You know, that's my kind of credo, and that's what I've been lucky enough to move into as an adult. And
look, to go back to the show, how long would you last if the internet went down? Because you do have a broad experience of apocalypses.
I mean, you know what? It would be apocalyptic. This is the terrifying thing now, is that we've very, very swiftly come to rely almost entirely on the internet. And you could cause an apocalypse by shutting it off. So many people would be affected. There would be, you know, mass casualties, terror, and chaos if it happens. So, and I panic if my Wi-Fi goes down at home, you know.
But not zombies, at least not zombies.
I would rather zombies than the internet go off.
Simon Pegg, thank you very much indeed. What a pleasure.
Thanks, Hugo.